Hello there. All right, so I was a little fired up yesterday. I got through a lot of what I wanted to say, but I didn't get to all of it. And so I went surfing. By the way, I went surfing this morning. I just got back and showered and shaved and ate a little bit. And so I'm we'll see we'll see if I'm as cantankerous today as I was yesterday. Um, but I wanted to talk about not just about the third eye, but I wanted to talk about how to project the third eye. So yesterday I talked a lot about things that get in the way of being able to project your intentions. And so I kind of got caught up in that a little bit. And the reason why I got caught up in that is because, first off, it's really important to me. And it is really important to me to teach people practical stuff that they can work. I'm really not interested in just being another new age YouTube teacher. I have no interest in that. And I definitely, again, I was concerned with, and I am concerned with people who take things at a superficial level and then nothing really comes of it. It just becomes another way to divert yourself from real growth. And, listen, it would be really nice for me to say that spiritual progress happens without work. It doesn't. When you look at traditional spiritual paths, like for me, Taoism, Hinduism, yoga, mantra, qigong, martial arts, internal martial arts, even Western magic, these kinds of things. These things take time and they take effort and they take discipline. And we live in a culture of immediate gratification. Where is it? It's not even, I can't grab it. My phone. Immediate gratification. By the way, being able to type with your thumbs, that's a new thing. I can't do that. Type with your thumbs. Anyway, always immediate gratification. That's what that's why spirituality, that's why shamanism has been hijacked by hallucinogens. And there is a whole generation of people who think shamanism is about taking hallucinogens and tripping out on hallucinogens. It still goes back to this idea of immediate gratification. And the reality is that you want to become Mr. Olympia, you want to be an Olympic athlete, you want to be a triathlete. It's going to take work and it's going to take effort and it's going to take discipline. And achieving enlightenment isn't something you just snap your fingers and it happens. So that's why sometimes I really come down on the, everything is love and light and it'll all be okay, and just focus on the positive. And in fact, it's incredibly destructive if that attitude and behavior is driven by a need to avoid pain. And that's what immediate gratification is. It's all about avoiding pain and creating a feeling within yourself right now. So I wanted to talk about today, I wanted to talk about some of the mechanics. So I got all that out of the way. It's obviously still something that bugs me and I need to talk about it more, and I probably will as time goes on, hammer away at it. But let's get to what I wanted to talk about, and I think the reason I didn't talk about it as much yesterday is because on the surface it sounds, people can get caught up in that. And people want to talk about it. Let's talk about how does this do that? Does that do this? And, we can get all wrapped up in our intellect about it. But I wanted to talk about the mechanics of how the third eye projects and what it's connected to and all of that. So that's what we are going to talk about. So let me recap a little bit again of some important stuff I talked about yesterday, which is important for understanding this. Projecting your intentions is similar to 3D printing. That's kind of a cool thing where you have these printers that can print in 3 dimensions. In fact, I was looking at flutes a while back when I play flutes. I haven't been doing it in a while. And I was looking at these end-blown, really cool flutes, but they were printed on a 3D printer, and I thought that sounded really cool. But it's the universe is kind of like that. When you project your intention, what you're doing is you're 3D printing something. And so the material that is used in that projection, that 3D printing, is the energy matter of the universe. So we talked about that too, that even my phone is made, it's hard, it's made out of matter, it's an object, but it is filled with energy. And this started as an idea. Somebody had an idea, and that became this. But when it comes to your life, like, your finances, that's the biggest thing for everybody. Finances, love life, health, happiness, success, all of that. These are also things that are created projected out of our third eye and 3D printed into our reality. So that's what I want to focus on. I spent so much time yesterday focusing on the internal aspect and trying to smack down the myths surrounding it. And I do that because I have a strong desire to be able to empower people. And it frustrates me when I see, obviously, listen, as we're growing, everybody wants the easy way. I want the easy way. I'm always looking for the easiest, fastest way. So that's when I laugh when people say, what is the best and fastest way? I laugh at that because I relate to it. But again, I have to, as the teacher, I have to, acknowledge that, listen, the best and the fastest is that mentality in and of itself, especially when you're at the beginning of it, is not going to help you a whole lot. But I want the best and the fastest way. I won't lie to you. I kind of forgot what I was saying, but so let's go back, let me back up. Talking about projecting onto this matter energy field. There's another way to look at it. I'm caught up with surfing. It was great today. It was great. It's been really big. I talked yesterday about how a couple days ago I almost drowned, and it was pretty scary stuff. And today the waves were a little smaller, so they were right about at my tolerance level. I was just at the verge of almost being scared, but not quite. And but the conditions, the tide was really high, so it gave the waves some corners, which means you have some place to go. Otherwise, it just walls up and does this. But it had corners on it, so you could go down the line and surf. And it was high tide, so the waves were a little less intense, but they were still big and powerful, and it was very exciting. And it felt alive, and I was really happy. So I'm still thinking about that. I'm still thinking about how much fun that was. In any case, so I projected that, and it was interesting because the other day when I drowned, I had made the intention that this is going to be the best surfing I've had in years, and it wasn't. But today was. Today was the best surfing I've had in years, and it gave me a shot of testosterone boom, because I went out there and I did it, and I surfed some big waves, and I performed pretty well, and people were complimenting me as I'm walking down the beach. That's such a nice feeling, as I'm walking down the beach and people are, hey, you did really good out there, and that was it. That was really nice. That's nice. I feel this place where I live now, I finally feel like, I'm home, and it's the land here itself. It just keeps telling me in all these different ways that it's glad that I'm here. So that's really nice. So obviously I projected that into my reality. So let's talk a little more mechanics about how the third eye projects. So if you notice these pictures here, I've got two pictures. This is the one that I used yesterday. And I put this one up here because this is what most people think of when they think of the third eye. When people talk about opening up the third eye, what they usually mean is they have this idea that it opens up and then you see. In other words, information can come into your third eye and you can see into the other realms. And, you know, so people say, my third eye opened, and they put I don't know. You know, there's a lot of pride connected to that. You're spiritual if your third eye is open. And I guess what I'm saying is that your third eye is open. Everybody's third eye is open. If it weren't, you wouldn't be able to project anything. You wouldn't be able to create a life. You wouldn't be able to function. Your third eye is constantly projecting your reality. And I kind of went off on that yesterday about, you know, you're either projecting your unconscious, unresolved issues and fears, or you're projecting your soul desire, or some mixture of the two. So it's always happening. So the quest for opening the third eye, and will this open my third eye, and will that open my third eye, and, you know, all of that stuff, isn't important. Your third eye is already open. The question is whether or not you are projecting through it in, you know, in a conscious, deliberate way. But this is how people normally see the third eye, is that it sort of opens and then all this information comes in. That's why I picked this picture yesterday. But I focused on this picture here today because I wanted to punch up the idea that the third eye is not just this eye that opens, that takes in, you know, images. It also projects. In fact, in the Vedic myths, Shiva, when he opens up his third eye, you know, fire comes out and destroys. And it's what it means is it destroys illusion. So we're not at that level. Well, I don't know, maybe you are. We're not at that level yet where you get to that point, you don't have any intentions. You know, Shiva represents, you know, the highest awareness. And so when he opens his third eye to project, what he wants to project is infinity. And so we're not infinite, we're finite, and this world is finite, and we want it that way. We want stuff. We want to experience, you know, if we created infinity, like what Shiva wants, or what Odin experiences, we would obliterate, you know, the entire universe, because we would want to get back to the essence of infinity. This is why both Shiva and Odin have the name of terrible. Shiva's name is, one of his names is Ugra, and one of Odin's name is Ug. It's the same word, same Indo-European word. It means terrifying, and it is terrifying when, you know, the third eye opens of completely evolved being, because what's going to come out of that third eye is infinity, and that infinity is going to take the finite and destroy it. It's really going to transform it. So that's what Shiva represents. And when you worship Shiva and when you worship Odin, what he does is he goes in and destroys the limitations and brings you, that's, you know, again, that's why these deities are seen as deities of war and deities of destruction and deities, you know, fearful deities. It's only fearful because if you want to hold on to your limitations, and I want to be clear, I do. I want to hold on. I'm enjoying this video game. You know, I'm still getting, and will probably continue to get, a lot of comments on videos from people who have all kinds of assumptions about how horrible this universe is and the lower vibration. And somebody asked, you know, a couple of days ago, why would anybody, you know, want to manifest on this lower plane of existence? We only do it because the archons, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you and I live in different planes of existence, because I'm having a blast. I had so much fun today, and I'm not unaware that it's, you know, this is a video game, and I've got this avatar that I live in, my physical body, and trying to get the most out of it while I can. And today the video game brought up just some amazing nature and power. It was amazing. And there's after surfing today, there's no need for me to go to Hawaii and surf big waves. I was doing it out here. You know, I'm really happy with what I've created with my life. And so the point is you need your limitation in order to enjoy this. And I'll say again, I've said this before, but anybody who is looking to escape the matrix is only getting themselves deeper entrenched in it. When you want to escape limitation, it's like trying to fight against a boa constrictor. The more that you tense up, the tighter it squeezes. A boa constrictor doesn't release. It tenses, and it wraps around and it tenses, and it waits until you exhale, and it squeezes a little tighter, and then it waits until you exhale again, squeezes a little tighter. That's what it's like when you are of the opinion that this world is full of misery and pain. And I'm not trying to diminish any pain or trauma you have experienced. But if that is the way that you interface with it and you choose to see things that way or focus on that, the more that you struggle against that, trying to avoid it, the tighter it squeezes. So, and people who are looking to achieve enlightenment because they don't want to come back to this painful life, you are guaranteed to come back. The people who get to leave and not come back are the people, when they're done with their life, they go, I'm trying to think if there's something else I want. I think I got everything I wanted. I mean, I'll go back if you want, but trying to think, is there anything that I want? Those are the people that don't get to come back. The people who are like, I'm never going back there. That place is horrible. It's full of low vibration people. You're coming back for sure. Because when you exit this body, you're going to go, you know what? There's a lot of fun stuff down there, and I'm avoiding it by getting wrapped up in, whatever your issues are. So, anyway. All right. So, all right, I still want to talk a little bit more. So the third eye is a lens. Besides being an eye that opens and sees the other realms, it is also a lens. It is a lens that is connected to a projector. So imagine a lens right here, like a projector lens right here. And this is connected all the way down. I'm pointing to my navel center. Connects to your lower self. So when we talk about the lower self, we talk about the beings that I call the dwarves. The dwarves are emotional beings that are made up of energy. They're not little people running around in pointy hats and pointy shoes with big beards and Scottish accents and axes. That's not what the dwarves are. The dwarves are emotional entities that are created by human beings, and they have the ability, they're emotional thought forms that have the ability to have their own existence. These are people create them all the time. Magicians try and create them. I responded again to somebody earlier, and I got onto that subject of that, somebody was talking about thought forms, and I came to realize that I don't deal with that. I don't focus on that, because that's another way to get sort of trapped in the illusion of this three-dimensional realm. Because when you create a thought form, you're responsible for it. So if you squish out a thought form onto this earth plane, you're going to be responsible for what that entity does. And there was I forget the name of it, Lachnunga, I think, an old English healing magical piece, and it's called, no, that's something else. There's one that's called Against a Dwarf, and it's talking about getting rid of bad dreams. So dwarves are very clearly connected to the unconscious mind and dreams and all that kind of stuff. But the point about all that is that part of us, that lower self of us, the subconscious and the unconscious, but more specifically the subconscious mind. In the thunder wheel, we're talking about the southeast. The thunder wheel, we're talking about the southeast, the dwarf home. The southeast is directly opposite the northwest. The northwest is the realm of the elves, the ascended masters. The ascended masters, the elves, have a direct connection to the dwarves in that they guide the dwarves to manifest and create reality from energy matter, this energy matter field that we live in. When you are out of alignment with your soul, you cut off your dwarves from the elves, and the dwarves cannot get their direction. And then they start doing their own thing. And that's when you end up creating all kinds of chaos. That is a lot of times when you've got poltergeists. Poltergeists are nothing more than an individual's thought forms that are being projected into their reality. And it's usually when somebody is really angry on an unconscious level. And there's been multiple cases of poltergeist scenarios where there's a person who's been physically, sexually, mentally abused when they were younger, and they suppress it, which you have to do because it's intolerable. So they suppress it, but all of that rage stays in there. And I'm thinking of one in particular where there was this ghost of a little girl that was running around and attacking the father and starting fires and doing all kinds of things. And it would only happen when the wife would sleep. She'd fall asleep or take a nap, and then this little girl ghost would run around and create all these problems and attack the man and start fires. It was her self. It was her little 7-year-old self who was still furious and angry from all the abuse she had suffered as a child. And so that stuff has to come out. Anyway, I don't know how I got on that. But what I was saying is that when we are out of alignment, then our subconscious mind can then start squeezing out all this chaos. So on a lower level, what all of us go through is when we are not aligned, we project out of our third eye the chaos and the conflict that we have within us. And so that's why it's not helpful to do things that suppress emotional awareness. We want to feel better. And I said this yesterday, that this is the cause of the opioid epidemic. And opioids are horrible. I mean, we're not just talking about, smoking weed or drinking. Those things can be addictive physically and emotionally, but once you get dependent on opioids, it's just horrible. But that's why it's there. It starts from people have, they get they get physical problems that are a result of chronic pain, other kinds of things that are a result of suppressing the emotions, and those emotions have to go somewhere. So they go into the physical tissues and they cause disease and chronic pain and other things like that. And of course, medicine doesn't know what to do with it. They don't even know the cause of it. Things like fibromyalgia, TMJ, lower back pain, back spasms, even, joint pain and stuff like that. Well, we don't really know what causes it. We know that stress has something to do with it, but here's some pain pills and here's a this and here's a that, and it never really goes away. It just gets worse. People have these back issues. I know, I'm talking from experience. And what you'll hear from the medical community is that I forget what nerve it is. The nerve in your spinal column is getting squished and it's causing pain. That's just pure nonsense. That can happen if you have an actual structural problem. But the large larger percentage of people who go to the doctor and are told that they've got a slip disc and a this and that. That's not what's going on. And I was told that. Oh yeah, it's putting pressure on the something or other nerve, and total nonsense. That nerve in the back, which radiates out down the legs and radiates up the spine, and it's really awful when that thing flares up. There's a real situation going on in that oxygen is not getting sent to the nerve tissues, and so the nerves are flipping out because they're not getting oxygen. There's nothing wrong physically other than that. So the pain is real, the inflammation is real. I mean, the pain is very real. It's not just in your head. It is in your body. But it is the result of your body responding to you wishing to suppress your feelings, and those feelings are going somewhere. They got to go somewhere to get your attention. So they end up in the physical body, causing all kinds of pain. I got a really great comment from somebody who, after I explained this process, he claims that his neck pain went away, like almost immediately, once he acknowledged that he was in conflict with himself about not going after what he really wanted. And when he acknowledged that, according to what I read, as I remember it relieved his neck problems. So this is part of what we're talking about here, the unconscious and the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind and the dwarves, when everything is working correctly, wants to project your highest intentions, your greatest joy into physical reality. And so this third eye is a lens that does that. Meditation, mantra, Qigong especially is very good because you need life force energy. You need life force energy to be able to project, because we live in a field of energy matter. So it takes energy to create. It takes energy to mold and to manifest this sort of fluid, plastic, energy matter soup that we live in. So that's why Qigong is so important. But the other benefits of Qigong are that it gives you power and it gives you objectivity. And the feeling of not having enough is not having enough energy. The purest form of resource is not money. Money is clearly a symbol of life force energy, resources. And so if we're able to project finances and money into our life, it means that we have a surplus of energy with which we can project into our world. One of the things that happens when we don't have enough money to do what we want, it means that we at the very least have an experience that we are not getting the support of the universe in the form of life force energy. So that's why Qigong is so important. That's why pranayama, breath work, mantra, and ritual, all these things are really important because they give you access to life force energy. Now, as opposed to, say, taking psychedelics, which give you an immediate experience that you didn't earn and you will have to pay for, unlike that, life force energy, when you start to bring it into your body, it immediately wants to balance the imbalances within you, which means it will force you to become conscious. If you get enough of it in you and you feel confident enough, then you will have a feeling of peace and of objectivity, where you'll be able to look at things from an objective perspective and go, oh, I see, that's why I'm doing that, and that's why I'm doing this, and oh, I can change that. It gives you a feeling of safety and security because you're being nourished. And it also gives you the power to make decisions. I've talked about what shamanic decisions are. And shamanic decisions are when you make a decision. For me, mine was when I was living in Idaho in a failing marriage, and I was in chronic pain, and I didn't have a career, and blah, 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 blah. I made the decision. I said, I'm too young to be in pain, and I refuse to be in pain anymore. And I refuse not to do. I'm going to do, and I listed all the things I wanted to do. Surf, hike, exercise, all that stuff that I wasn't able to do because I was in so much pain. And I said, I don't care. I'm going to do it. And I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but I'm going to make it happen. And that decision shifted everything. And everything changed. It was horribly painful, though. I had to face all of the unresolved, unconscious self-sabotage and conflict I had with myself. So that's the difference. Taking hallucinogenics or taking power plants gives you an immediate false experience of spirituality. It's like using credit cards. You get a bunch of life force energy that your unconscious mind uses most of the time. You can have legitimate experiences under the right conditions, but most of the time, especially if it's done out of a desire to escape pain, will create nothing more than narcissistic fantasy that doesn't go anywhere. You get stuck in your head. It doesn't accomplish anything. Okay, so anyway, there's enough of that. Let me take a little bit of a break here. We've got 2 new links on here, I think at least 2. One is career.thunderwizard.com. I do that so that that's for people who don't know what their soul desire is, because as I've said, you've got to know what your deepest soul desire is, and many people don't know or are in conflict, or they think they want something when in reality they don't. They want something else. So that is something that I do, and I'm able to most of the time help somebody in one session find out exactly what it is. If they've got unconscious resistance, it may take more, but in any case, that's what career.thunderwizard.com is. But it's also, if you just need counseling on any level, in other words, you don't want a Vedic astrological reading. You just want counseling, relationship counseling, I don't care what it is. Then go there, career.thunderwizard.com, and you can purchase a session with me. The other one is astrologycertification.thunderwizard.com. You can go there and find out how to become certified and learn very quickly how to do my system of Vedic astrology, which is very unique and very precise. And the second level I'm still in the process of creating, so I'm offering a package where you can get level 1 and level 2 right now. Level 2 is when I certify you to either work directly under me or be able to use my name through my website to be able to create your own astrology business. Level 1 is just being able to learn the basics and do what you want with it, play around with it, or create your own thing without using my name. So those are the 2 new things that are going on. So I'll be back here in a couple of minutes. Alrighty, so let's see if we have any questions. Again, for those of you new to my channel, the best way to interact with me is to ask a question. The less talking back and forth and the less of just dumping your opinion onto Q&A, that takes away from my ability to get to the questions. I'm only interested in the questions. And if you want to get my attention, do something that says, a question so I can see it. And this is, again, only for the live Q&A. If you're watching this after it's been archived and recorded, then you can just simply type, without using all caps, into the comment section. And, if it's an interesting question, I'll respond to it. So let's see. So Dreamcatcher, again, put question on there so I can see it. Dreamcatcher 11, I don't know if you're new to my channel or not. You're asking me, what do you think of artificial intelligence being created right now through the blockchain? Well, first off, there's an assumption there, which I don't know to be true. It might be, but I don't know. I don't know that artificial intelligence is being created through the blockchain. What do I think of it? I don't care. Again, if you're new, the first thing that you have to begin to master if you want to get anywhere in my path is you got to drop all fear-based belief systems. So anything that says artificial intelligence is going to come this. In fact, I saw something flipping through YouTube. Who's the guy? Who's the? I forget his name. The reptilian guy. So and so says the reptilians are about to attack. Here's the thing. Black Earth Productions, I saw him on there. How's it going? By the way, check out his channel. He's got a lot of great information. Black Earth Productions. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, he and I had a conversation about how, when you're in alignment, I'm using my words here, when you're in alignment, you're basically bulletproof from all of the, whoever, the government, aliens, archons, evil sorcerers, reptilians, neighbors. It doesn't matter. You're bulletproof if you're connected to yourself. And, fear, I got to tell you, fear is a drug. Fear is a drug that people use to justify not evolving. And so people who are obsessed with conspiracy theories are people who are avoiding the pain that is inherent in your own evolution. The pain that is inherent is dying to your limitations, dying to your ego, meaning your limitations. And so fear is just like any other drug. It's used to divert you and to keep you from experiencing the death. Like Odin. Odin died to himself. He sacrificed himself to himself. And that is what we do then. So there's a death in that. So that's what people are doing with it. So to answer your question, I don't give a flying about artificial intelligence. Doesn't bother me one way or another. Okay, so let me, again, question. Danielle, I don't know how to pronounce that. Sarell, Sarell. Question, how do you overcome abuse? I don't know what you mean by that. Are you currently being abused? Or are you talking about the trauma of having been abused? I said this yesterday, and I mean it. A large portion of you, if not a majority of you, need to be in counseling. You need to be talking with somebody who you can work through this stuff with. You cannot do this on your own. I said this yesterday. I've been avoiding talking this way because I didn't want to be one of those teachers that, gathered a big following of people, and I don't want to be responsible for a bunch of people. But I am now coming to the realization that I'm here to create teachers. And one of the things that teachers do is they counsel. They provide a space to reflect back to you what's going on in your unconscious. If you've been abused, you need counseling, period. If you're currently in abuse, you need counseling because you can't fix yourself. This is true. I'm a teacher, and I have a teacher who I go to, and I have friends that I go to whom I listen to. And, a doctor is not able to take out his own appendix. Doctor has to go to another doctor. So If you're not, if you're not fully enlightened and you're having these issues, you sure as hell can't fix yourself. You can't do it. So that's one of the reasons why I'm breaking out into, career.thunderwizard.com, which is giving people some counseling. And, if you become an apprentice, it's one of the things that I do. We will talk and we will find things out. The whole point of it isn't to get into psychobabble, because that doesn't get anywhere. Somebody mentioned yesterday that they've been in counseling for 15 years. They've had 3 different counselors, and it's a bunch of garbage. And I climbed up his rear end about, well, that's not an excuse. Go find somebody that'll help you. That's not an excuse to avoid it. But there's some truth to that. The shamanic approach, as I teach it, is that I want to help uncover what is hidden in your unconscious so that you can become aware, so that you can take action. And the whole point of taking action is to align the 3 selves so you can do exactly what I'm talking about, which is being able to intend on a conscious, deliberate level your highest awareness into your reality. There's nothing else that we're here to accomplish. That's what, when I talk about having fun, I say there's nothing more important than having fun. That's what I mean. It's the same thing. Ultimately, we're here to have joy and experience joy. But if we've got damage, if we've been damaged or abused or gone through, and we all have, we wouldn't be here if we didn't give ourselves challenges. Then we need to look at it, and we need to do some shamanic psychological surgery, and that is not something you can do alone. So to answer your question, that is such a general question, how to overcome abuse. I would have to talk to you and ask you a bunch of questions and find out what was going on so that I could help you. There isn't a pill. Oh, take a Valium. That's kind of what you're asking me. Give you a general Valium to overcome abuse. Can't do that. It needs to be done specifically. Yeah, yoga cured my sciatica. That's what I mean. So sciatica is, that the sciatic nerve, and when people say that they have sciatica, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, without a doubt, unless there is absolute verifiable structural damage, which even then, most of the time when doctors tell you there's structural damage, there isn't. It's always emotionally driven. It's the body. The mind has shut down blood flow to the sciatic nerve, and the sciatic nerve begins to go into spasm and inflamed and upset, and it radiates through your whole body, and it's really painful. But there's nothing physically wrong with you other than your body is choosing to manifest your internal emotional conflict with yourself, which is happening on an unconscious level, unconscious self-directed rage. That's all it is. So it's not so much the yoga, it's the breathing and the meditation, and the stretching and all that is great, but the stretching even doesn't do it. It's the breathing and the meditation. And I'm willing to bet that you became aware emotionally of things that were bothering you, and you had the ability to look at it objectively and work through it. That's what cured your sciatica. So that's what yoga is good for. The breathing and the meditation and the movement and all that kind of stuff allows you to work through your issues. All right, again, looking for the questions. Maricel Villanueva, how do you remove anger? Well, first off, you don't remove it. This is what I was talking about earlier. We live in a society that wants to avoid pain, and we want to, we want instant gratification. So you can't remove anger. Why would you remove it? It's there for a reason. You're angry for a reason. When you're driving your car on the freeway and somebody cuts you off and you get pissed off and you shake your fist and you yell at them, it's because they threatened your life. Your life was momentarily threatened, and the anger is your body and your emotions trying to protect you. So why would you want to remove that? If what you're saying is your anger is bothering you and it's making you uncomfortable and you don't want to feel it anymore, then you have to get to the root of what the conflict is about. What is it that you're not doing that is causing you to be angry, that you're blaming on other people? Again, I don't even, such a general question. I would have to ask you so many questions to find out, who are you angry at? Why are you angry? What is the anger about? So I don't think you should remove your anger. You should understand where it comes from, and then resolve to take control over what it is you want. Because that's what anger is all about. Anger is all about feeling that you don't have control. Wanting to have control over something you feel you don't have control over. So I would have to talk to you. What if the anger is not your own? What do you mean it's not your own? Of course it's your own. So what I'm hearing is that you are so disconnected from your own anger that when you do feel angry, you don't even know where it's coming from, so much so you think it's somebody else's. Remember, there are no victims. So for you to be filled with somebody else's anger would assume, remember, assumptions are everything, you have the assumption that you have the ability to be manipulated by somebody else's feelings. That isn't to say that there aren't people who aren't empaths. I'm an empath. But, that's different. If you are a victim, as you say it, of other people's anger, you are in major denial over your own issues. And I'm not judging you, it's just a fact. That's why we call it unconscious. Unconscious rage. You are not consciously aware of your own rage. And when it comes up, you don't even know where the hell it's coming from. And in order to distance yourself from your own pain, you say it's somebody else's. So the way to remove the anger is not to remove it, but to understand it. Again, you need counseling. You need somebody you can talk to who will ask you the right questions and know how to help you uncover that. Okay? So if you're feeling a rage inside of you, it's yours. You're upset about something. You're angry about something. And I'm not judging that. You might be well within your rights to be angry. But if you don't get rid of it, not just use the wrong word, if you don't understand it and process it, then yeah, it can cause problems down the road. Interscope Question. Yesterday you talked about the three parts of the self, Odin, Vili, and Ve. Could you please go into this further pertaining to manifesting? Odin, Vili, and Ve, the three selves. The higher self, the lower self, the middle self. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I'm not a Christian, but that's where that came from. In the Bible, Christianity, Judaism never had a Trinity. Christianity, when it first evolved, never had a Trinity. The Trinity was imposed later because Northern Europeans had an inherent shamanic understanding of the three selves. The number 3 is extremely important. This is something that Christianity could not get rid of, so it was infused into Christianity. Just a side note there. In Chinese, it is heaven, earth, and man. And it's done in that order, heaven, earth, and man. In the Norse tradition, it's Odin, Vili, and Ve. So, what does this have to do with manifestation is your question. So before I start launching into other things that aren't pertinent to your question. First off, you are always manifesting through your third eye from your lower self, always. So this is important. Your subconscious mind is constantly projecting. There can be problems when I do 9 world rune readings. runereadings.thunderwizard.com if you're interested in a rune reading. When I do 9 world rune readings, I can see whether or not somebody is able to manifest their intentions. And you see that in the southwest. And whatever rune is in the southeast, whatever rune is in the southeast will tell me where they are in terms of their ability to manifest. So lots of times, a lot of things will be in alignment, but there will be a problem in the subconscious mind manifesting. And that usually has to do with there's a conflict within them. That they're clear on what they want to manifest, but they feel conflicted on an unconscious level. I'll give you an example. For me, when I was, a young adult, and I really wanted to be successful, and I was working 2 jobs, and I had founded a theater company, and I was doing auditions, and I was doing plays, and I was teaching acting on the weekends. I was just so busy all the time. I could not manifest success. And it's because I had an unconscious conflict in my mind, because I grew up with a very successful, extremely smart father who was insecure. And whenever I started succeeding, he felt, I didn't realize this at the time, but he was very insecure, and I had made a decision on an unconscious level to be mediocre so that I would not intimidate or sadden him. I wanted his love and approval. So I had an unconscious conflict within myself where I really wanted success, and at the same time, the conflict was I had guilt, which is self-directed anger. I had guilt about accomplishing that because on an unconscious level, I didn't want to upset my father. So that's where problems can come in terms of being able to manifest your intentions. When you are in alignment with yourself, the higher self, where the third eye is located, your higher self will be able to receive guidance from the ascended masters. That's when you get like that wisdom that hits you where you're like, and you start to really see things from above. That's what's coming from the ascended masters. By the way, if you go onto my channel, the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel, and you look for the elf ritual, that will align you, and you can do a ritual to connect to the ascended masters and get guidance and information. And it's a really powerful and really wonderful ritual. So when that is aligned, that sends information to the lower self. That's where your dwarves sit. Dwarves are emotional thought form entities that you create within yourself that work for you to create your reality. They will receive from the ascended masters what they need to know to best help you, to best create the circumstances for your soul. So ideally, this all happens seamlessly without any conscious awareness on our part, only if we're aligned. I mean, it's happening all the time anyway, but when it's working well, you're not even aware of it. I shared about this yesterday where there were, my fiance would constantly point out to me that I had this ability to simply decide what I wanted, and I'd verbalize it, and then it would happen. And then I didn't even pay attention to it. It was just kind of the way I functioned. When I'm working through an issue, as I said yesterday, what I do is when I feel like I'm blocked and I'm frustrated, I've come to realize that what I need to do is figure out what it is that I want. If things are blocked, it means that I have a conflict, and I have the experience of not knowing what I want. Once I figure out what I want, that's all I do. It really is. That's all I do. I get connected to myself, and I listen to what it is that I really truly want. And when I become aware of it, I verbalize it, either by myself, walking out at the beach at night, talking to myself. I verbalize it, and then I sort of relax because I know that's all I need to do to get over whatever the conflict is, and to become conscious of what I want, and to acknowledge it and to own it, and that's it. And then eventually it happens. So if there's a problem with that, it means that there's a break in the communication between the 3 selves, and a break in the communication between the 3 selves is always a result of us making the choice to walk in a different path away from what our soul wants. And the only reason we do that, the only reason we walk away from what our soul wants is because we're trying to please something or somebody else. I shared about this last night when I was looking at the place next door because I would like to have a place with no shared walls. Right now I'm in heaven because there's nobody underneath me, and I just found out yesterday that they're going to move in at the end of the month. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I love not having any neighbor noise. I love it. So I'm fantasizing about finding a place that I never have to deal with that. And the place opened up next door, and it was twice as expensive and really swanky. And I shared that when I looked at the place and I started imagining myself there, I found myself feeling really guilty and weird and, criticizing. And I stopped and I said, what is this about? And I listened to the feelings, and I became aware that I was afraid I was going to get judged by you. That if you guys found out that I was living in a big swanky penthouse, 2-bedroom apartment on the sand and the beach, that you would judge me for being too superficial. Once I got over that conflict within myself, then I opened up, and then I was able to actually ask myself, do I want to live here? Because I knew once I got rid of the guilt, if my inside said, yeah, I want this place, that I'd end up having it. That, if my income needed to double in order to achieve that it would. I came to the conclusion I didn't want to live there. And I had a couple of reasons for it. It was just the flow of the space, and I didn't feel like I would make good enough use of the space, and I don't like that. I like to feel like that there isn't a waste of space. It's like a waste of energy. I like to feel that I have enough space, but not too much or too little. So I decided I didn't want it for that reason. But it definitely got me into thinking completely differently about my income threshold. And I threw my income threshold higher, which will probably mean that my income and the success of this channel will start to go through the roof. So do you see the difference? I'm not trying to impose an arbitrary number out of a fear, which is what most people do. Most people say, I want to win the lottery. I want to be a billionaire. I want to have this, because they think if they have an excess of money, that will give them safety, and then they can do what they want. And that's not how it works. I don't have a need to make a certain amount of money. The only reason that I hit goals for myself is because I know how much I need to live where I want to live so I can do what I did today. I woke up this morning after 8 hours of beautiful, blissful sleep, and it was 9 o'clock, and I rolled out of bed and I looked outside because I knew the waves were going to be good today, and sure enough, the waves were good. I walked down to the beach and walked along, and I said, wow, those waves are pretty big, but I think I can handle them. And I came back home and I suited up in my wetsuit and I picked my surfboard. I said, I want that one. And I took it out as a brand new one. I took it out, and I had the rent that I'm paying here is a little over the threshold that I had assumed I needed in order to live here. Now I'm realizing I can boost my threshold even higher because there are other places that might be a better fit for me. But it's got nothing to do with the amount of money. If things were different, I just came from a place that was $850 a month, and it was really peaceful and quiet. It was a little studio house in the backyard of, and a beautiful setting. It was just really peaceful and quiet. It's too far from the beach. I have no problem if that's where I'm comfortable. I have no problem lowering my income to meet that. Doesn't matter. The amount of money I have is not connected to my need to feel safe, because the universe provides whatever I need. Being rich is paying $850 a month and having plenty of money left over to do whatever the hell I want. Being rich is not being a millionaire and having a huge mansion that you have to pay a huge mortgage on and worry about property taxes, and that's not being rich. That's having a lot of money, but that's not being rich. Am I making sense? I don't know if I answered your question. Odin, Vili, and Ve. Okay, let's see if there's any more questions here. All right, so Cosmo Joe. The reptilians have already attacked. See Trump administration for more info. Isn't dropping the fear the same as suppression? Romney on Germany. No, not at all. Dropping the fear is not suppressing your fear. Not at all. Suppression is, I don't want to look at this. I'm afraid of this. This is painful. I can't deal with this. I'm not going to, everything is fine. Love and light. Everything is good. That's suppression. Dropping the fear says, yeah, I mean, I just got through laughing at, somebody's see Trump info for more, Trump administration for more info. I'm laughing at that because there are conspiracies. I don't care which side of the aisle you are on. You can be right, You want to believe in Pizzagate? Go right ahead. You want to believe that, that Trump is being controlled by Putin? Go ahead. They could both be true. I don't care. I'm not saying that these things don't exist. I'm not saying that there isn't a government conspiracy, that there isn't a deep state. I'm not saying that there aren't chemtrails. I'm not saying that there isn't a problem when it comes to the medical community and insurance. And I'm not saying any of that. I'm not saying, and I've got a big when it comes to the Christian conspiracy to hijack ancient spirituality and to hypnotize people out of their shamanic awareness. You know that. I know that that's true. Dropping the fear means that you don't get wrapped up in it, that you understand that when you are in alignment, you're bulletproof. And I'll go so far as to say this, that when you're in alignment, you become invisible to them. They can't see you. You're not a target anymore. Dropping the fear is not the same as suppression. Suppression is denial, and that's different. Okay. Let's see. Looking for the what? Sorry, I'm every time somebody adds something, the thing bops around, and I gotta scroll back up to find out where we were. Again, that's why it helps not to put, just comments on there, because it gets in the way of my ability to just get to the question. Thunder Clayson, question: we are living in we are living in an interactive holographic reality. How do you not care about AI? I don't care about AI because I'm not afraid. The only reason that I would care about AI is if I was afraid. This is a new one. I was about to cuss. There's a new fucking fear every day. There's something new every day. Today it's AI. There's always been something. There's always something to be afraid of. There's sharks out there. There are sharks that come here to this very beach. Great white sharks. And they drop off their kids. Big, giant 25-footers, and they squeeze out little babies, and the babies are out there right in, I'm sure they're underneath me. And baby great whites, you know how big they are? They get to be like 8 feet, 10 feet. They're still juveniles. If I spent my time worrying about all this stuff, I would never enjoy my life. So living in an interactive holographic reality is only a problem if you aren't the one that is controlling the hologram. So if you say that you live in an interactive holographic reality and you care about AI, then you don't believe that you have control. You believe that other things have the ability to control and affect you. You're forgetting the first rule, or maybe you're new to my channel. You created this interactive holographic reality. So if there is artificial intelligence, who created it? You did. So if you don't like it, don't create it. And the way you don't create it is you don't buy into it. Don't buy into the fear. So anyway. Looking for the questions again. Simontheski question. I have a kind of knot underneath the nerve in my left hand and have no grip anymore. I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds like a real bummer. I have no money at all to go to a healer. I wake up with both hands numb. What can I do now? Well, the first thing you can do is acknowledge that you've created the situation. You've manifested it. And so since you've manifested it, then you can unmanifest it. I believe that you have a physical condition. I don't know what it is. I don't know what that knot is. Whether it's psychosomatic, meaning that your emotional situation has manifested something in your body, or whether it's, something you were born with or as a result of an injury, I don't know. But I do believe that it's a real situation. You make a shamanic decision. First off, let me ask you, do you deserve to be healthy? If any part of you says no, or if you feel any guilt, that means that you have a conflict within you that has resulted in this, because you have you on some level are angry with yourself, and so you've created a illness or an injury that prevents you from being whole. If you do deserve to be healthy, then get angry about it. And what I do, what I've done is when I've gotten to those places, I think about all the things that I want, like today. If I had listened to all the pain that I had 5-7 years ago, I never would have been able to do what I did today. Went out there and surfed epic conditions, big ass waves, beautiful. God, it was beautiful. I wish I could show you what it looked like. It was just amazingly beautiful. If I had listened to that, I would be the guy on the shore in the scooty chair, wheeling myself around and looking out and going, I used to surf. I made a decision. I got angry and I said, I refuse to be in pain anymore. And I don't know how I'm going to fix it, but I'm going to fix it. I am done with this. So you got to get mad and you got to make a decision that you are going to be healed. You say, I have no money at all. Whose fault is that? You're probably going to tell me why you are a victim of circumstance and you don't have any money, and all that stuff might be true. It doesn't change the fact you manifested that too. When you make the decision to have everything that you deserve and everything that you want, the universe, if you mean it and you start taking action towards it, the universe will line up to give you what you need. If what you need is money to go to a healer, that will find you. If it's not, if a healer doesn't have the ability to heal you, again, I don't know that a healer is going to heal you. There's a lot of people with serious problems that can't find any way to get healing. I'll give you an example. Again, following online, ayahuasca, there's a lot of talk about ayahuasca. I don't do hallucinogens because they're, number one, it's unnecessary, and number two, it's ultimately damaging to my energy, so I don't do it. And I want to learn. I don't want to be unnecessarily critical of something I don't understand. I've never done ayahuasca, so I don't know anything about that. So I started following somebody on YouTube who was somebody who had Lyme disease or something like that. A chronic illness that, looked like it was a real bummer. And she had decided that she was going to go to South America and do ayahuasca and heal herself. I thought she was going to go once or twice. That's what I thought. So she goes and she talks about this and her trip on ayahuasca and what she learned about herself and all that. And she decides she's going to make this vlog about it. And so she keeps vlogging about it. And she apparently went and had like 20 ayahuasca experiences. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot. That is a major, I mean, that's a lot of life force energy being thrown around in all kinds of different directions. Now, I am expecting her to start talking about how it healed her. She starts talking about how she's going to be a licensed ayahuasca whatever, somebody who takes people on trips on ayahuasca, and a shamanic counselor and all that. And then after a year or something later, when she's done 26 ayahuasca, she then reveals that she has not overcome her Lyme disease. And I'm thinking to myself, what was the fucking point of that? What's the point of that? I don't know that a healer is going to heal you. You don't know that either. The assumption that somebody else has what you need is, again, being a victim. I'm not saying a healer won't heal you. I don't know what will heal you. But the assumption I have no money to go to a healer means that, again, you're a victim. If you make the decision that you're going to be healthy, and if you make the decision that you're going to do whatever it takes, and if you make the decision that you're going to look deep inside and find out what you did to create that in yourself because of your own self-directed negativity, whatever it is that you need will be made available to you. So that's what you can do right now. You can make the decision. You can make the decision to find out what it is you really want in life, and then get real with why you won't give that to yourself. Who are you trying to appease? Your mother, your father, God? Who is it that you're trying to appease by not giving yourself everything that you want? Okay? Hope that answers your question. Is it wrong to seek revenge on a metapsychical level? You mean metaphysical? Yes, it is wrong. Do you want me to get into that? Do I need to get into that? Do you really not understand how revenge causes you problems? First off, revenge is never going to give you what you want. It's never going to solve the problem. It's never going to make you feel better. Here's the thing about anger. Whenever you're angry at something or somebody, the person you're really angry at is yourself. So if you want to get revenge because you believe somebody did it to you, again, now you're coming from the assumption that you're a victim. Whatever they did to you, you manifested. They were only following your projection. Your third eye projected out that those people were going to do that to you. I'll give you another example for myself. Surfing, is a big deal for me. I grew up further south of here. I dislike that place. I was so unhappy there. And I got treated like crap. I got picked on. I got beat up. I got from everybody, from my older brother, from everybody that lived around there. They just saw this big target on me. And it was awful. And surfers can be the worst. Surfers will fuck you up. If you're somewhere they don't want you to be and it's a real clicky spot, they will fuck you up. They will slash your tires and they will beat the crap out of you and break your ribs, and just for showing up at a beach they don't want you to be at. Surfers are really nasty people. And so I grew up and I still surfed through all that. And I still surfed, even though that I constantly was looking over my shoulder to see who was going to give me a hard time and all that stuff. I was very isolated. And I live here now. I live here and the waves are much better here. Much, much better here. And this place, when I come out of the water, people that I don't even know will come up and tell me how what they saw me do and how I did really great. And some guy took my photo today, and some guy recognized me from the internet because I sell surfboards on the side, and so I have projected a completely different scenario because I like me now. When I grew up, I didn't like me. I grew up in an alcoholic home. I had an alcoholic father. I had an older abusive brother. I was not a happy kid, and I had ingested a lot of that self-hatred. So they saw a target on me for a reason, because I didn't like myself. And so I manifested people to abuse me and victimize me and all that kind of stuff. I like myself now. And when I go out and I do what I want to do, people treat me with respect everywhere I go. And I haven't done anything different except that I like me. So if you have the need to seek revenge, you're not admitting the reality that you have manifested whatever it is that they're doing to you or did to you. And you are in denial over the fact that you think that by going and causing them harm, trust me, I understand. If you don't think that I haven't thought long and hard about getting revenge on my older brother, you are very mistaken. Let's just say he's lucky to be walking straight. I chose not to follow through with that. And the truth is, there's nothing I can do to him that would be anywhere near as bad to what he does to himself. I won't even get into that. I just found out about him recently, and I feel sorry for him. I don't have any anger towards him. I feel sorry for him. It's too bad. Guy at his age, he's got to be pushing 60 now, and he's, just a miserable guy. So too bad for him. The best revenge I can get on him is to enjoy my life, which really doesn't matter one way or another. My life has my happiness or unhappiness has no bearing on him. So why you're even asking, is it wrong? Of course it's wrong. You know that it's wrong. And it's not wrong because it's an evil thing or a sin. It's wrong because it damages you. Wanting to seek revenge is damaging to you. That's why it's wrong. You have a responsibility to yourself, to love yourself and empower yourself and give yourself the best life that you can. There in 12 steps, if you're interested in 12-step work, the 4th step, which has to do with resolving resentments, is brilliant. Because it says that every time you have a resentment, you owe somebody an apology. What? But they did it to me. I had a resentment against my father. My father was an alcoholic, and when I was a kid, and I'd see him drinking, I was so angry with him. And then I came to realize, when I looked at my resentment, I came to realize that, it's none of my business. If he wants to drink himself to death, that's his business. It's selfish of me to be telling him how he should live. Just because I wanted a daddy who took me, out and threw the ball around with me and, follow through with his promises and, didn't sabotage me, even though that's what I wanted. He didn't have to do that. If he wants to live his life differently, that's up to him. So the same with you. All that stuff applies to you. Anyway, if you need help, give me a call or book a session with me. I can help you work through that resentment. All right, I don't see any more questions here. Question: how do you spell dwarves? Do you know what a dwarf is? D-W-A-R-F, dwarf. Some people spell the plural dwarfs, D-W-A-R-F-S. Some people spell the plural D-W-A-R-V-E-S. The Anglo-Saxon, the Old English pronunciation was dwerg. Dwerg. D-W-E-O-R-G-H. Dwerg. Sorcery was called dwergmal, which meant dwarf speak. And I think it means speaking to your dwarves to create reality. That's what magic is. All right. Looking for the questions. Okay, let's see here. So be aware, you guys, if you're trying to have a dialogue with me or fight with me or agree with me, unfortunately, I'm going to go right past it until I see a question. Because otherwise we would be here all day. Nope, no more questions. All right, let's take a little break here. let's take a little break, and if there's any more questions, I'll take them. Alrighty, let's take a look and see if there's any questions here. I'm not seeing any. Nope, no questions. All right. All right, so how do I want to wrap this up? First thing I want to tell you is that, as I said earlier, I have come to realize that my job is to create teachers, to create other people who will go out and do what I'm doing. And so part of what that means is I'm going to start certifying people in different ways. The first way is I am creating certification for Vedic astrology. There are 2 levels. The first one is I teach you the basics of my system. I'm not going to teach you everything there is about Vedic astrology. That would take forever. I'm going to teach you exactly how to do what I do. I have an outline that I go. I've got it down to a rhythm now. I know exactly what to do to say this, that, and the other thing. And it's a very specific focus, and I don't know anybody else that does what I do. So I teach you how to do that, and if you want to go play around with that and do it for yourself or do it for friends or even make a business out of it, go ahead. You can't use my name. You can't say that you learned it from me. You can't advertise my name, but you can do whatever the hell you want with it. The second level is, which is in the process of being put together now, is that I go deeper into some subjects and then I work with you on a personal level to see if you can do it. I test you to see if you can create a chart the way I would, and if you're able to explain it, in which case then I certify you, which gives you permission to use my name, and you will go through my website. You can go and advertise as much as you want and get clients in. You'll have your own little web page, which will come through me, which means I take a little piece of it. And then there will be people who I certify to be my direct astrology apprentices who will, when I have too much work, I will siphon it to them. And again, I take a little administrative fee, and then the rest will go to you. So there's that. I'm going to certify people in career counseling, which is what I got through saying is the most important thing to be able to, and all of this, the most important thing, period, is being able to follow your soul desire and to overcome your fears and your unconscious self-sabotage to live the life that you want. Most people, many, a lot of people don't know what they really want, and they need somebody who knows how to ask the right questions so that you can help them figure that out. That's a service I provide at career.thunderwizard.com. That's going to be the next one, so this is down the road. Third one that concurrently that I'm working on is for female staff carriers. That is what my ancestors called female seers. And it's extremely important. In ancient times, the female seers were of the highest status in the entire culture. There was nothing that was more revered and respected than the female staff carriers. Female staff carrier means that these are the women who have the power to carry the men's power. That's what the staff is. It's the phallic symbol. Other cultures, the men walk around carrying their staff. It's like they've got their Schwanzstoker in their hand, right? My ancestors understood the value and the power of women, and men willingly gave their staff to their women so that women could carry their power for them. There are women that are coming to me that I've come to the conclusion that Odin is bringing his Valkyries and his staff carriers to me so that I can help train them. Understand they have abilities far beyond mine when it comes to going to the other realms, what we would call seed. Seed being able to channel the gods, to shamanically travel to other realms. They have far more ability than I do. I listen to them. In times past, there would be the wizard and the staff carrier woman. And the female seer would go and come back and say, here's what the gods said to me. Here's what I saw. The wizard would interpret that. The female staff carriers were so powerful back in the day that you did not go to war until the female staff carrier said, it's now time, go to war. If they said, do not go to war, you did not go to war. And that was one of the downfalls of European shamanism. When the Roman Empire came through, they were aligned on the other side of the field, battle lines. The Germanic tribes had come together. They were on the other side of the battlefield. The female staff carriers came to the general on the Germanic side and said, do not attack. Wait. And they didn't. They disobeyed, and they attacked, and the rest is history. Romans wiped them out and took over Northern Europe and instituted Christianity and all the crap that we have today, which in my estimation is the reason why we had racism, why we had colonialism, why we currently have pollution, why we currently have global warming, and why we have terrorism, and why all of that happened right there that day. That one guy, whoever the hell he is, I sure hope it's not me. Whoever the hell that guy was who decided not to listen to his staff carrier was the last little domino that fell. So I'm going to start working directly with staff carrier women. I'm going to certify them and teach them how to own their power. And we're going to create a community where staff carrier women can communicate and train each other. And I'm going to learn with you how to create a training system so that you guys can go off and travel around the world and do what staff carrier women used to do. We'll talk more about that. I'm going to teach another technique of what's called holding the 3 ones, which is learning how to really empower the 3 selves and align them and be able to intend reality. And that is going to be a very powerful, but potentially the pinnacle of what I teach. And I'm going to certify people in how to train other people into doing that. So my job is I'm going to empower a bunch of people who will then empower other people, and that way I don't have to try and do everything myself. I'm just a channel. I'm just a channel to empower you guys to do what you do. So those are the things that are coming. If you want to get started on some of that now, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. Excuse me. Well, you can go there if you want a reading, but you can go to astrologycertification.thunderwizard.com while I'm still giving a discount on the package. Once both 1 and 2 are completely created, there will no longer be a package option. You'll have to buy them separately, which will be more expensive. You can go to thunderwizard.com. I recommend subscribing at the $25 level, starting from the beginning and learning how to do what I teach. Practice all the energy work, the ritual work, the mantra work, the spell work, the ritual, the shamanism, all of that. I teach all of that step by step. Runes, All of that I teach on thunderwizard.com, and for 25 bucks a month you get access to weekly videos, in-depth weekly training. That's what's coming. Keep your panties on while that comes together. All right, let's see if there's any last minute questions. I am starting to fade here because what happens after I go surfing, the combination of the ocean and the sun and the physical exercise makes me very sleepy, and I end up having to take a nap. So I'm going to have to do that here pretty quick. All right, question. What if you do not know what you really want? It's good that you're aware of that. That shows awareness right there. If you don't know, then you need to have somebody help you. And so I would recommend either getting the book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. That's my book. You can go to michaelwilliamdenny.com and look for that. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Or you can get a session with me, career.thunderwizard.com. I should be able to, unless there's really deep unconscious conflict, I should be able to help you in one session find out what it is you really want. Okay, continuing with the question, in life, and nothing really resonates if you look around, or you get, nothing resonates for you if you look around. So for you. So yeah, once you figure out what you want, you're obviously in conflict. It's normal. You're in conflict. You're trying to please something or someone that's in conflict with what you want, and you're at a stalemate, which makes everything feel like you're numb. And so in order to survive that, you distance yourself from your feelings, and so you don't know what you want, you don't know what you're feeling. Like the other guy said earlier, he doesn't understand why he's angry. He thinks somebody else is doing it to him. So get a session with me and I can help you with that. Let's see here. Question. Is physical reality a mirror of the inner being? That is a good way of putting it. Yes, sir. Your outward physical reality is a manifestation. It's a projection of your internal state. If you live in chaos, if you live in fear, if you live in conflict, it means you are in conflict with yourself. I must be doing okay. I manifested fucking big, bitchin', beautiful waves, and I went out there and surfed them. I was 54 years old, and I was surfing them, these big waves, and people were walking up and complimenting me and taking my picture and wanting me to put them in their art project. And hey, that's a cool board, and I must be doing okay. I'm manifesting some pretty cool stuff. So, knock on plastic. Hopefully that will continue. That is my goal. But yes, your physical reality is, it's not so much a mirror, it is a projection of your inner state of being. Nothing wrong if you're in life and life is shitty. That's okay. Just now that you know you're in conflict. If you resolve the conflict, your outsides will reflect that. So if you created the problem, you can fix it. That's the good news. All right. Black Earth Productions. Hey, what's up? Sethicus Boza. BlackEarthProductions.com. Productions with a Z.com, but I think it's just regular Black Earth Productions if you want to go to his YouTube channel. Question. If we live in a, quote, world, unquote, of multiplicity, would you agree that not everything that is going is a reflection of our kin? I'm not sure I understand your question. It's a very deep question, and I might not be understanding everything. So if I'm hearing you right, if we live in a world of multiplicity, meaning that we've got a bunch of human beings with their own holographic reality running around, then everything is going on is not a reflection of our kin, meaning those of us who are following the path, the true path, the old ways, however you want to look at it. Yeah, so I would agree with that. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier when people are asking me, how is it you're not flipping out about, AI, artificial intelligence, because that's not my hologram. I'm not creating that. It doesn't mean that shit doesn't happen and that you don't have an experience with it. 2000, 9/11, when 9/11 happened. 9/11 happened when I was up in the mountains, in the Sierras. I was 20 miles in the backcountry by myself. Actually had a Bigfoot experience. It was really intense. And I was in the middle of one of the most powerful, beautiful forests the world has ever created, and beautiful mountains. And 9/11 happened while I was up there. And actually the night before, as I went to bed, I could see as I was going to sleep, I saw the faces of these Islamic men going, with the turbans and all that going past me. I'm wondering, I wonder what's going on there. I spent an hour the day before feeling really angry at Israel. Didn't know what that was all about. And then so I was empathically picking up what was going to happen. The point I'm making is that, and I told that to somebody when I came back down. It had been a week, because I was up there for 2 weeks. When I came back down, it had been a week, and everybody was numb. And I had been spared watching all that shit on television, and the horror of watching that and feeling out of control. It's not my projection. I don't need to buy into that. It doesn't matter how bad things are out there. Things can be horrible, and wars and all of that. But if you are bulletproof, you're aligned with yourself, unless you've got some karmic thing that you need to work out with somebody else, the universe will take you out of that. There's an island in the Indian Ocean, where there are people who have never been contacted by anybody. They have never been contacted by any modern people. They are still living exactly the way that they lived 50,000 years ago. They represent the first human beings that came out of Africa up into the northern hemisphere, and nobody can touch them. They come out, if you come anywhere near them, they come out with bows and arrows and they scare you off. And all governments, for whatever reason, have decided to leave them alone. That's what happens. When you're in alignment with your reality, you don't have to interact with anybody else's garbage if you don't want. I think that's what you're asking me. If that's what you're asking me, then anyway, that's what I got in it. Okay, so I think that's everybody. Is that everybody? Yeah. So anyway, Sethicus, I hope I answered your question. Even if I didn't, it got me on a cool little subject. So, all right, that's it for me, my friends. I am going to giggle and be happy and look out from my balcony at the waves. There's a surf contest going out there right out in front of my house. There's a surf contest going on. I'm in heaven, man. My life is so good. Oh, a question popped in. Are you talking about the Dogon? I believe so. No, I think the Dogon, aren't they in Africa somewhere? I forget what they're called. They're in the Indian Ocean. They're off the tip of India, and they are protected by the Indian government. But I forget their name. Anyway, that's it for me, my friends. All right, any questions? You know where to reach me. Yeah. All right. That's it. I'm fading out. I'm going to go take a nap and enjoy the rest of my incredibly beautiful, wonderful day. Thank you, my friends. Talk to you soon.